From the high plains of the Midwest, I bid you good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever your time zone might be. My nod to the late and great Art Bell. I'm Keith Sharp.
And I'm G. Dressel.
And we welcome you to Life After Life, a paranormal webcast where we talk about the paranormal, UFOs, or the unexplained. And the biggest question of them all, what happens when we die? Stay tuned. And we're live.
We did it.
We did it. You know, it's funny. We get a week off or something, and I come back and I do a better job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're learning off osmosis.
Well, you know, there's so many things because you have this whole menu, right?
Yeah.
And so the countdown is one spot.
I love the countdown.
Introduction is in another spot. The logo is in one spot. So when that's going on, I got to click on to the logo because if it's not, then it shows us, right? So I have to remove our picture, put that up. And I'm doing like 40 things before
I should do it behind the
30
scenes
seconds of
because
me.
it's funny.
Because I'm behind a cockpit of an jet or something.
Yeah, it looks like you're like flying an airplane. All right, we're about to take off.
Hey, Randy, good to see you. Scott, so good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Hadn't seen you in a while. Hope everything's going well. I'm playing guitar in an Elvis band, Scotty.
Yes.
Believe it or not.
Yeah, and it's so good.
Yeah, well,
it's really good.
It's fun. You know what I like about it?
What?
Is, you know, I did the Beatle thing for so long.
How many years?
26.
Oh, it's impressive.
And the nice thing is, in this band, I just play guitar, so everybody's watching the guy doing Elvis.
You're just jamming.
No one's watching me. I'm just jamming, man. It's nice. I like it.
I know. I'm glad for you.
It's not so because I get nervous. I mean, when we do those Beatles shows, which occasionally we'll still do one, it's still a little nerve-wracking.
It's so good though.
Thank you.
It really is, man. You guys have like amazing shows.
It's a lot of fun. Well, guys, we got a really cool show for you tonight. We got
Eric
Bennett. His podcast is what, Garrett?
Round Trip Death.
Yeah, we were talking about what a cool name that is.
It's like the best name.
It's almost good as our name.
It's almost as good as
our name. No, it's pretty darn.
Hey, I'm so glad to have him on too because like his show literally focuses on NDEs, and like we were saying before this, that's something you and I are super passionate about. And
man,
quite a few shows.
That's
really.
One of you and Mai's passion.
Are you from Mustang?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's one of our passions. It is because that's the big question. Is you know, like in our intro, what happens to us when we die? Well, everybody wants to know that,
right?
And like when I was talking to both of you via text, I was saying it's comforting when you actually have people who come forward and they tell about these stories, and so that there's some validity to it when they're so common. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You know, they'll have the life review usually. You know, the light, the tunnel, some of them. So I find that very comforting, interesting. It's like, okay, great. You know, this isn't it. We just don't die and we go into eternal sleep or something.
Right.
But man, I got so many questions. What do we, once we get to the other side, what are we doing?
Well, this guy, this is what he does.
Yeah, I want to ask him and see what he's got. So let's bring Mr. Bennett on here. Eric, good evening, my sir. Good. Thank you for coming on tonight. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Good to see you guys finally.
So, so you started your podcast. When did you? It's got a few shows. Did you just newly start? I'm just tongue tied today.
You're okay.
It is really new. We just started up in June. We have about 10 episodes out.
Wow. So what got you interested in NDEs out of all the cool subjects there is? What fascinates you about it?
It's better than Sasquatch. So I've been interested in NDEs for a long time. I've read all kinds of books on the subject, but there is nothing like actually talking to someone via Zoom, face to face, looking them in the eyes and asking them questions. I just absolutely love doing it. It's been so fascinating. And in the short time we've been doing this, I've learned so much already.
So does it make you, like I was talking about, it's comforting for me to have listen to all these experiences. Do you feel the same way? Like when you hear those, it's like, oh, there's validation to a lot of this, that there is something there, that this is, you know, life is just not it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about it, there are thousands and thousands, maybe millions of people that have had NDEs. And if we took a whole bunch of those people and put them in court to testify about something that they had seen, it would be considered a very believable thing. And here we have so many people that are talking about what they saw on the other side, that death isn't the end.
Right. So, about how many interviews have you done so far? I know you just started, but
Yeah, a few dozen, and a lot of them don't ever make it to air. Anybody that sounds like a wacko, or I don't know, I have to be able to believe them and find them interesting for them to actually go live on the podcast, and that means weeding
yeah,
out quite a few
that
people.
right. That's the thing is Garrett and I, we do the live show. It's a little risky sometimes on some of the guests we have. I mean, in the beginning we used to pre-interview everybody, and then we got to where we stopped doing that. And then occasionally you'll have a guest on. You're thinking, "Oh God, I got an hour of this. So what am I going to do?" But yeah, it's just the way it is.
Well, so out of the dozens of interviews you've done, what percentage do you think you've had to cut, or like you didn't believe necessarily?
Oh, good question.
A lot that I didn't believe didn't even make it to the interview stage.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. And I do pre-interviews with everybody. So most of the people that actually get recorded, not all, but most of those actually make it live.
Okay. And so how long, because I know your shows are a little bit like you edit them and you cut them. So how long are normally, if you don't mind me asking, are you talking with these people?
Generally about an hour. I
Right.
just nothing against really, really long podcasts, but me personally, I can't listen to anything for much longer than that, and that even seems like a long
Yeah.
time. So
Yeah, for sure.
you'll find our episodes anywhere from about 20 minutes to about an hour long, with the average being 45 minutes or so. And
Yeah.
yes, I
That's
do
what that's
edit. I do edit out if somebody gets really long-winded or kind of convoluted. I cut some of that out.
For
yeah.
sure.
Garrett and I was just talking about that when we first started. We started out as a podcast. We didn't do live shows, and we had interviewed this particular person, and I'm the one who does all the editing. And I took out 250 when this person kept saying and it was like I took out 250 it took me like an hour to get all those out.
Yeah.
So I hated I mean, the live thing I do like, because we can talk with our audience, and plus it's you never know what's going to happen, which can be scary sometimes. but also it cuts out that whole editing process that we used to have to do and then upload everything.
Well, with the reason I was asking about kind of the length of the interview is because what I've noticed from having these conversations is that you do learn a lot. You mentioned it earlier, Eric, is that you've learned so much in these, probably 36 hours of talking to NDE, right? So that's a long time to talk about NDEs with people that have actually had them. What are some commonalities throughout? Because there has to be a thread probably, right? Is there a thread?
Yeah, there is. The main thread that I have seen, and I bring this up in near the end of most of the podcasts, is do you fear death? And every single person says, I no longer fear death.
Right.
Yeah. And
Now, other than that, every experience is different. Not everybody goes through a tunnel. Not everybody sees the light. Some people meet Christ, some don't. They're all very different.
Do you think it's individual? I mean, it's like, as far as like, say I'm a Christian, I believe in Jesus, so my death would be like I would see Jesus. If you are into Buddha or whatever that religion is, it becomes that's what I think we maybe create our own kind of afterlife. I think perhaps, hard to say. But I did notice in a lot of your podcasts Jesus was mentioned more than once.
I think you'll also notice one thing I've noticed so far is he never introduces himself.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting.
So people based on their faith,
Right.
yes, some people may say it was Jesus. I just knew it. He didn't need to introduce himself. I haven't heard anyone yet say that about Buddha or somebody else that they have faith in, but my guess is it'll be the same because they have to interpret what they see, what they experience into their own frame of reference.
Right.
For sure.
So that's what they're doing.
And it's also kind of one of those things, like we talk a lot because we are a paranormal show about residual energy. And it is one of those things like, what are you putting your energy to on the spiritual side?
Yeah.
That's probably what's going to live on and move on. So,
Well,
yeah, and it's geographical too, right? Like we're in America. So most people believe in Jesus,
right.
right? If you're like in India, it'd be probably the interviews would be much different, I'm sure, right? Do you think that?
I think so. And I haven't had an opportunity to interview people from, say, Africa, India, but I have interviewed people from the UK, from New Zealand, other English speaking, primarily English
Right.
speaking nations. And their experiences are fairly similar. By the way, shout out to, hey, people in UK especially. We have a lot of listeners there for some reason.
So do we.
So
Yeah, and
so
Tons.
yeah,
thanks.
when I was looking at our stats, there's a lot in UK and Australia.
Yeah.
Australia is probably the third. There's United States,
They're all
UK,
spiritual.
and then Australia.
They love
first.
this stuff. Yeah. So
Yeah.
shout out to all.
I
Yeah.
think everybody should. I mean, that's something. It's one of the biggest questions of all.
Right.
So I think
I think it's amazing that Eric's gotten so many people to reach out and talk to you about it. There
yeah,
must be
Eric, I've
something
had a
about
hard.
you.
Like we love doing NDE shows, and that's what I find. It's hard to find somebody to become a guest. Now we kind of talked about this a little bit before the show. Do you scour the internet, or I mean, you don't have to tell us your secrets how you find these people, although I wouldn't mind if you did. Because honestly, Eric, we've had a few NDEs, but we haven't. You've got some very interesting guests, and sometimes I've found other NDE guests that we've had. I mean, most of them are fascinating, but there's some that are just like, okay, yeah,
So
But-
yeah, I'm a Facebook troll. I mean, that's part of it, but
Yeah.
but also there's a lot of. It's amazing as you talk to people about this, and friends and family are listening. They're telling people. The next thing I know, I'm getting calls from people saying, "Oh, my aunt or my aunt's next door neighbor had this experience. You've got to hear it." And then I talk to them, and there are a lot of people that find these experiences so personal, so sacred, if you will, that they don't want to tell very many people about it. There's also
Yeah.
other people who have maybe early on after they had it, they told one or two people who told them that they were crazy. Don't ever say that again or you're going to get
sure.
locked up.
Right.
So they don't talk about it. And there are other people that were told during their NDE, you need to spread this message, whatever the
sure.
message was. And they want to shout it from the rooftops.
Well, do you think that there's also a demographic of people that are just trying to still figure out what it is that, you know what I'm saying? That it seems like it would be something that really hard to wrap your mind around at times.
I think every demographic falls into that.
Right. Well, have
So
you found that some people come out of this and just immediately want to start speaking to people about it? Or is there like a time, like 3 months or 4, like, does that make sense?
Oh, I would think it'd be
an epiphany.
I think it'd be several months.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to process what happened to them. I would
Right.
think.
Have you
before they
had
start talking to
anybody
people.
though that it's like instantaneously they come out of this thing and they want to speak about it? Have you come across somebody like that?
most people want to talk about it immediately with their loved ones, just
Okay, got
people
it.
right around them.
You would have to.
And then based on their reaction, they judge. I mean, this could
Got it.
sound crazy. Do I dare tell other people about it? One of the episodes that came out recently is with a young woman by the name of Katie Ray. She's in Montana.
Dude, crazy.
She had only talked about this with her therapist.
I was talking to Keith about that.
And one of the things that I love best about doing these interviews, and I kind of hate to say that I'm leaving people out of the best part, but when we're done recording, I ask a lot more personal and other kinds of questions of people just for me.
For
Yeah.
sure.
And I love that a little bit more intimate kind of setting where people will open up even more. And I've had a number of people say, this is so therapeutic to be able to talk about this.
Absolutely.
This is something that has been, I've had for years, or like Katie Ray, not very long, but you feel like there's kind of a burden. You've got a secret that you haven't talked to people about, and being able to talk about it in this kind of a forum where I try to make people feel very safe, and it's a very non-judgmental, it's a non-denominational, you tell me what happened to you, and and that's good enough for me. And people leave feeling really good afterwards.
And I commend you for that. And I actually talked to, I mean, that's the first thing I mentioned to Keith, when I was about that episode, and that you actually said, I think you'll find this therapeutic. And we found that too, even on the paranormal side, right? When people have hauntings or
because
weird-
there's no one they could go to, and especially like, well, I started the show because I had a haunting that started when I was about 14 or 15. I grew up in the 70s and the 80s, and there's really no one I could talk to about it because people back then thought you were just nuts, and so I didn't really open up about it until I got a little older, and it started, you started seeing ghost hunters on TV and more ghost shows, and it started to get more accepted. And then I started talking about it, and that's when I talked to him about, he experienced a lot of the hauntings because he's my son-in-law.
It was weird.
And when he's dating my daughter, there was times
it was not normal. I was like, okay.
When he'd come to my house and there would be something paranormal that would happen.
Do I want to marry his daughter?
Yeah.
I'm going to get haunted.
But yeah, I think it's more accepted now. So
but there's this therapeutic component to it.
Well, our guest last week,
Maggie.
I think Maggie, she had a very interesting NDE. She drowned, and she kind of mentioned that it was kind of to get someone's different perspective, because it's like she was still kind of struggling with what happened exactly and trying to make sense of it all.
And do you find, like, with the people you talk to, have you found any other kind of like data points, like enlightening things that maybe they picked up on after their NDE?
One of the things that happens after with some people is they don't remember all of it right at first, and the memories, something triggers it, and a memory comes back, and something else triggers it, and more comes back.
Yeah.
One of the things that I see kind of fascinating is that some people come back with, I don't know if you want to call it a gift or something else. People feel like, they now can do energy healing or whatever.
Yes.
But with some people, it's almost more of a curse. You're going to hear an episode probably next week from Teresa down in New Zealand. And since her experience, she has a really bad time with electronics. Like smartphones die on her. And I think she said she went through 8 smartphones last year.
Oh, Lord.
Wow.
Because
they get a little expensive.
They just fritz out and die. And, and she's gone through a couple of microwaves and things like that. And
Energy.
Yeah, that her energy has changed in some way that I know I don't understand.
It is weird because Garrett and I we've talked to people who they came back and they feel like they have psychic abilities. They were able to do readings after that kind of thing, and
or like with Maggie, it was super weird because that's one thing I'm interested in is the people that like can speak a different language. They come out or something, right? There's all these cases like we talked about the other night, Eric, and you actually said 4 to 11% of the population, right? So there's a big difference there, but that's still a lot of people that have had NDEs, right? And so the outcome has been different. So when we were talking to Maggie, I said, hey, is there anything that kind of like you picked up on? And she's like, well, that's interesting you say that because I got really into drawing. And she showed us this drawing that was incredible.
Beautiful art she's doing now. I mean, she showed us a picture and it's just like, wow.
Just massive animals.
Yeah, she said her artistic ability after NDE just was off the charts. And she went around her room with a camera and showing us these pictures, and they were just gorgeous.
She had never made the connection. So do you think that that's something on an energy level, or do you think that that's something like your brain using an art form as a therapeutic device?
Oh, that's a good,
Wow, that is a really good question. And I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that, but I do.
Can you speculate?
But I have picked up on one thing, and that is that not only do people not fear death when they come back, but they often don't fear as many things in life either. Okay.
Yeah.
And so while someone may have, when they were 10 years old in art class, someone told them, oh, that drawing stinks. So they haven't drawn since then. Now, all of a sudden they're going, hey, I dare draw. I dare express myself through art.
Yes.
I've got one statistic on that here in front of me. Of people that have had, this is a study of people done over about a 50-year period. And oh, there's about 1,000 people studied in this that have had NDEs, that these are documented by scientists. Their heart stopped, okay, in
100%.
surgery or something. So they're technically documented. They came back, they were interviewed about a whole bunch of things. Here's an interesting one. 54% of people that have had NDEs report major life changes afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay. And 75% had major career changes afterwards.
Really?
Wow.
That is interesting.
Well, it makes sense though, right? Because like one of my favorite philosophers, he's not very well known. His name's G.I. Gurdjieff. He was like a dance instructor back in like World War I. It was kind of an interesting guy. But one of his philosophies is you can't be significant until you realize how insignificant you are in regards to numbers and population, right?
Yeah.
And so it seems to me like having an NDE, you would come back and be like, oh my God, what I just experienced was so significant to what that art teacher said when I was 10, that's dumb, right? So that's what, like in most of these cases, it seems like they're all coming back with this stunning perception of another world. Is that what you're finding, or is there another side to this?
No, there definitely is I like your words, a stunning perception of another world. When you hear the way people try to explain the colors, for example, I saw flowers that were a blue that I've never seen before and a purple I've never seen before, and all these colors of the spectrum, both in the sky and in the flowers, and in rocks that were glowing and pulsating and seemed alive, and they just don't have the words to fully explain it.
Right.
Man, I'm colorblind. So when I hear those,
We all are.
yeah, we all are. No, absolutely. But I'm clinically colorblind too. So like whenever,
No, he really is colorblind.
Like really goes. So, but whenever I hear that portion of it, that's always like so touching to me. I even in that Maggie Slepian, right? She's like dying, but yet she can still recall the beautiful colors she was seeing.
Yeah, that gold color she saw for the lighting and things. Okay, so playing the devil's advocate, which I totally am a big NDE believer, but you get a lot of doctors and other people saying, well, come on, this could have been a dream. This could have been chemical reactions happening in your brain that happens when we die, that kind of thing. And what's your thoughts on that when you hear doctors say that? Scientists will say that as well. Well, they are scientists.
Yeah.
I'm just fine with it. I'm just fine with the fact that you can choose to believe or not believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. How can we ever completely prove it besides the fact that there are so many eyewitnesses, which is good enough for me. And I have religious faith as well. So I don't even need all the eyewitnesses, but I try to be open-minded, and I do read the studies that talk about, hey, when your heart stops, a chemical reaction happens that could help you see stars, lights, whatever. Okay, who's to say those things don't work together?
Yeah, absolutely.
In their NDE. But I know that all of these people that I've talked to, it was way too real for them. It wasn't a dream.
It was more than real.
It was more than real, and it wasn't a dream. And the fact that you are not in the least bit afraid of death, means you experienced something profound.
Absolutely. I love the way you put that.
And that's the thing too, though, you can tell, to me, it's like, you can tell they have that perception of that. We know what dreams are there, but when it's to them, it's reality. It's more than a dream. It's more like a reality thing that kind of happened to them. And
it's an experience.
It's absolutely an experience. So what do you think about, okay, one of the things what about the hellish NDEs? I've heard of a few of those. I've noticed that on your podcast, you haven't came across anybody, thank God.
Yeah.
But what do you suppose that's all about? Because there are some people that claim that they were coming down a tunnel, demons were grabbing them. We actually had a guest on one time that she was dying, and she said as she was going down this tunnel, these hands were evil and they were clawing at her. And
didn't she go down into a box, like a light room?
Yeah, it was really,
really it was awful. Yeah, it was awful though.
Well, I have pre-interviewed with some people that have had experiences like that. I find them to be much more rare. the people that had them told me that when they had that NDE, they were really in a bad place
Mhm.
in life.
So is
Okay.
she.
We can call it karma, hell, whatever, but they felt like, they kind of deserved what they had coming to them. And, and a couple of them kind of scared me a little bit, and I didn't know
Yeah.
how far down that path I wanted to go. Our
Yeah,
show is about uplifting people and
for
removing the
sure.
fear of
Right.
death. And I try not to make interpretations of what people experience, or to preach any kind of specific religious doctrine or anything like that. But I'd rather, if in talking to a couple people, and I have one that we may do a show on pretty soon. It started negative, ended very positive.
In this case, it did as
Yeah.
well, though, because remember, she ended up seeing
Yeah.
this gold orb that she couldn't describe. She could see, she said whitish gold orb, right? And a voice brought her back into her body,
Yeah. Well, and that seems to be the case,
and
even
she
with
learned a
some of the
lesson.
hellish ones that
Yeah.
they do end up in some type of white light or something like that. But I think I've heard maybe one or two where it did well and they came back, and because of that experience, these were really bad people, and they said, man, I changed the path of my life right off. Now, whether that's God trying to just give that guy a message, hey, straighten up,
Right.
possibly using fear, but I have a hard time with that, because our God's a loving God. I don't think he's, well, one thing is I don't believe in hell. That's something I don't think there is a hell. I think it's all fantasy and make believe, and I think we just have one very loving God.
Wow. Yeah. No, I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I get people telling me, well, we'll pray for you, Keith. When I talk to people, but I
Well,
always,
a lot of
but I always go back to,
intent.
well, yeah, I think sure, and it could be the intent. Maybe if you're someone who's a satanic worshiper, you're going to have, even if you have a near death experience, that's what you're going to experience. I think it's whatever you attract into your life is going to be the experience that you're going to have.
Well,
possibly.
have you encountered anybody that was going down a really bad path, had an indie experience, and then completely switched it around and are living a better life?
Yeah, the couple of people that I've talked to that were going down a bad path, had a bad experience, came back and made some pretty major changes. And and I'm a lot happier to see the ones that it starts off that way and then ends happy. But hey, there's not a happy ending to everything. And I don't know the purpose of why everybody has a different NDE. Maybe if this is something that came from God, maybe that's what that person needed to turn their their
Yeah.
life around onto a better path. For some other people, I mean, none of us are perfect, certainly, and maybe seeing and feeling the love of God is even stronger for some others of us to get on the right path.
I love this topic.
Yeah.
No, I seriously, it's incredible. I was gonna ask about. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Were you about to
I was
say
just
something?
going to say on this topic I feel like I'm just scratching the surface. There is so much to learn, and we need to talk a year from now when these dozens of interviews are going to be hundreds of interviews, and I think I'll
Yeah.
have a lot more answers for you at
Well,
that time.
because the University of Virginia, obviously, I doing a really good job being at the forefront of NDEs and reincarnation and all sorts of things, right? So what I'm fascinated by is geographical, like how that influences the outcome of things like NDEs, and right. So I'm curious, like if we were in another country, what the outcome would be because of reincarnation and things of that nature. Because some of your shows, it almost seemed a little bit like reincarnation where somebody's coming back into their body, right? Or have you encountered anything like that?
Yeah, I just was looking at my list of shows to refresh my memory. There's one, it's number 208, John Davis. He talks about specifically, and he had a very long, detailed NDE, and he talks about specifically one of the places his guide took him to was to see his past lives, and that he saw 3
Right.
past lives.
Yes.
Now, from a religious standpoint, I don't know what to do with reincarnation, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But I do think that a lot of those things we interpret based on, like we said earlier, based on whatever kind of knowledge or study or background that we already have. Somebody might see a past life and call it like a premortal existence in spirit. Others would call it reincarnation because that's the terminology they know.
Right.
Others may call it something else.
Oh, the life review.
Have you ever had anybody that, when we go to the other side, what do you suppose we do? I mean, what are we? I read a story one time, and this guy had he said, and I hate to even say this, he goes, well, we choose to come to Earth because he goes, actually, everybody thinks the spirit world's all this exciting stuff. He goes, it's rather boring, actually. and he said, so we want this earthly experience.
Yeah.
And I just,
the challenge.
Yeah, I hope it's not boring. I mean, man, I don't want to come back here. Once I die,
Keith is always like, no, I'm good. I don't want to come back down.
Well, if you think
please don't send me back down, guys, please.
Well, they said there's always a learning experience, and that brings me to another topic: is learning what is this a prerequisite to? I mean, if we're going to this afterlife that's purifies you once you go through, then why do we need to learn lessons here if we're going to be perfect on the other side? That's the thing, is like, I'm learning lessons. Okay. Learning to love, learning to forgive. I get that. But if I'm on the other side and everything's perfect, I won't have to forgive.
So
I won't have to.
So ultimately your question is this,
why are we here? Is what my question is. Like, it's a prerequisite to what?
Right. Is it entertainment or is it a challenge?
Yeah. Is it entertainment? Is it, I mean, I understand, but that would almost, like we've talked about before, then that was mean somewhat possibly God gives you free will on the other side. Like, you may be, if you're a butthole here, you might be a butthole on the other side. I don't know. I mean, behave yourself, go back to Earth, and learn to act right, and then you can come back up here. That's the only thing, is I always kind of wonder, is like, what is this all about, and what's the end result? What do we do once we get to the other side? I don't think we're sitting around playing harps and things like that, but I just wonder what do we do once we get over there?
Eric?
Well, I know one thing, and that is, if it's boring, to me, that's going to be hell.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't stand boring.
Exactly. And so it was hard when that guy was saying that. I was thinking, and I didn't believe that at all. I just thought, wow, that's kind of a crazy thing to say.
One thing it made me think of is
no one wants to ever come back here. Once they've seen a glimpse of the other side, they all want to stay.
Well, it's kind of funny because, go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry.
It's the view is amazing. The feeling is amazing. Okay. But as some people that I've talked to that had shorter NDEs, maybe just saw one person, excuse me, like a best friend or a relative.
Right.
And a couple of them, they said, oh, yeah, this person said, oh, hi, how you doing? Almost like they just met at the grocery store. Oh, by the way, yeah, it's great to see you. I got to go. Okay, so they're busy. The impression from these people that have talked to people like that is the people in the next life, they're busy.
Right.
Okay. They have some kind of, I almost hate to use the word work because it has negative connotations, but I think they have something productive, creative to do.
Yeah.
Right. That was the last one of your podcasts I was just listening to before. It was something, I think his friend was named Troy or something. And he said, well, got to go.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
So you're right. Yeah. It's like they got other, other things
they have a commitment. Well, it was funny because in also one of your episodes, and I forget her name, her husband, I think, was cheating on her. But what her description is like, she goes into this place, which is amazing and incredible. But then she has like a guide that's taking her around. And then it's like all these other people in there. And they're kind of like going through a little bit of a test, right? Or something. And somebody comes up to her with the clipboard. So she's telling this story. And to her, it's fascinating. And there's some anxiety. And I'm listening to it. I'm like, so there's jobs on the other side? Like,
I don't
do I
wanna-
have to be an office worker?
I don't want to
Eric?
work.
I don't
Why,
want to.
why do they need a clipboard? I mean,
Yeah,
really?
yeah,
Don't they have
absolutely.
iPads?
Yeah.
I
I
don't
think-
get the whole clipboard thing and
Is that a
scrolls
perception?
and stuff. Well, we've got newer technology than that.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Is that perceptional though? Right?
Oh, that could be.
Because she also talked about being, having to answer, are you from Earth? Yeah. So what are the other planets? What do you make of that kind of story? Like her experience? Hers was a bit different. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. As far as the other planets, I've surprisingly heard a lot about that.
I'm
I
not
think,
surprised.
Share with us. That's
you don't mind.
well,
that'd be fascinating.
I've had multiple people tell me that they either visited, saw, or learned about other planets that are God's creation that have people on them doing different things, living at different levels. Whatever. I'm not sure what to make of that. Uh, I don't try to relate that to UFOs.
That's my next question. I was getting ready to ask. You think that's UFOs and aliens, possibly?
I
different
swear, I
species.
swear, I don't have a UFO tattoo.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
where isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's right here. No, but no, that's where we're gonna go. Go with the UFO thing and ask him.
Go
Ask him
ahead.
a question.
No, that's what I was just going to say. Is who's to say that God doesn't have other projects going on that we have no idea about? Maybe there are these intelligent beings in these crafts that come and they're interested in what we do. And I mean, because I had a UFO sighting in like 1978 that it definitely wasn't an aircraft. It wasn't anything that the Air Force had. It did some weird things. It shot down this white light that came out of the craft. And I always found it interesting, UFOs, but I really never believed in it. But until I saw one. And so that's something I've always wondered about too. Like, I wonder who's piloting that craft, what star system or whatever, where are they from?
Well, in any
Why are they even here?
in any of these cases where people talk about other planets, do they talk about how those people look? Is it different or the same? Are they humans?
They were humans, some of the ones I listened to that you had.
Yeah,
The
they're the same.
the funny one you had was where the guy he crossed over and he said there's this lady with long dark hair that kind of wearing a tunic, and he said it was like a flat screen TV, but this is back in the 80s. Before that, she was watching history, and he walks up and he says, and she goes, "Is there anything you'd like to see?" And he goes, "No, I'm just looking."
Just
And
like he was shopping for clothing.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Oh, I'm not buying one of those big TVs here today.
Yeah.
I didn't bring any money with me
But
on
it-
the other side.
But I thought that was kind of cool that he back in the days that he had his NDE, TVs were huge, and they were deep.
Yes.
And, this was 30 or 40 years ago. And he was seeing what he called TV sets that were thin and flat and big, and we would call them flat screens
Right.
now. He didn't have that terminology back then. But yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting as well.
Yeah, I was like, he could look at anything he wanted to, and he said, "No, I'm just looking."
Yeah,
My God, I would have took advantage of that.
Yeah.
But, like, yes,
But
there's
that
lots of things I want to see.
Well, I was
It's
gonna
like
say-
if God asked you a question, are you're going to be so blown away by everything I think that you're going to forget the question, Keith, that you
Yeah.
had, which is why on all this stuff.
Well, and I mean, that just goes to show you that there's still this human component to it, right?
Yeah.
Like in these NDEs, they're still being humans. Like, so that's just extremely interesting. Is a spirit? Is that what we are? Just a meat vehicle?
Yeah. I mean, so do you believe in reincarnation, Eric? Is that something you think happens, or?
Based on my interviews or based on my personal beliefs?
Well, both. How about both?
Because they're slightly different. My personal beliefs, I don't believe in a reincarnation as in, hey, I lived on this earth as a fish before. But I do believe that we had some kind of a life before we came here to earth. I think
Right.
we were spirit beings and we came here to earth. And I do think there was a purpose to come here to earth. I think
Right.
that I think that without a body, And maybe there we didn't have a body yet. Here we can get a physical body. There's things that maybe we just couldn't experience there that we can only experience here. And a lot of
Well,
those are hard things,
right.
pain, suffering,
But would
making.
that
Right.
be an entertainment thing for us or, as a soul, or would it be something we'd want to take back with us to the other side?
I believe we want to take all those experiences back. I think that if the afterlife is much more than a place where we're just bored, okay, then I think there's some kind of progression going on forever. And so we are here to learn and grow, and then we move on to there and keep learning and progressing in some way. I mean, that's what's fulfilling here in life, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So why wouldn't it be the same, but to a whole nother degree after this?
Right. A degree that we can't even fathom.
So
No.
going back to something, and not to beat a dead horse, but going back to something I talked about earlier, do you think what do you think this is a prerequisite to? I mean, why would we need to learn all these lessons to take back to the other side to a perfect place?
I think, and again, this is just Eric's personal beliefs.
Yeah.
I think that there are really some things we can only learn here or in some kind of
Right.
a place like here. That the things that people are telling me about the next life is so wonderful and pure and loving that maybe some of the hard knocks that we need to learn, we just can't learn there. It's too good of a place, and we end
Yeah.
up
Give
going
us
to a
some
place
light.
not as good to experience those things.
So do you think
Yeah, I
there is
love that.
some type of free will on the other side?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We'll see that with the yeah.
That's one commonality that I see is it seems like people that believe they have talked to Jesus or some other kind of a being like him is he's constantly giving them choices. Do you want to see this? Do you want me to tell you about this? For some people, they have a choice whether they come back or not. Would you like to go back?
I totally yeah.
Others aren't given the choice, but it seems like there are lots and lots of choices and free will.
That's what we all want, right?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I tell people all the time,
and
options are great.
well, yeah, but I mean, and to me, that's the only thing that makes sense because I think we have to have some type of free. I don't think we're just programmed robots up there going, "Oh, we worship God, we worship God." You know, I
Right, right,
mean,
right.
floating around on the cloud. I mean, I think there is a whole nother life over there, like he was talking about. That we do have things possibly that we do up there. Who knows? Maybe we become a guardian angel for somebody. Maybe we become a counselor for somebody down on,
Right, right.
that type of thing, and progress as we maybe that's why we die. I mean, or if there's reincarnation, we come back. Is we learn these lessons to experience these lessons for if a new soul comes to Earth, then we know, hey, we went through this,
Right. Yeah, yeah.
and let me try to help you through this hardship.
It's mind bending.
Yeah, it's like to think about the possibilities, but in the secrecy of it all,
What do you mean?
well, because there's a lot of times when people, I've read stuff where people had NDEs, and there's certain questions that aren't answered.
What do you mean? Like, I don't get it. Oh,
Like-
like they ask a question and it's not answered, or
Yeah, like something like there's some things it's like, well, you'll find out later,
Right,
or something.
right, okay.
And I can't remember specific. I can't be specific here at all.
right, right, right.
But there's some things
Left unsaid.
that might have an effect on our lives down here if we knew the
Right.
answer, and if we're on a certain pathway that we need to take,
Sorry.
that it could steer us off of that if we knew the answer.
So you sorry.
It's kind of like, I think when we are, they wipe our memory for some reason when we come down here, and we've talked about this before.
In reincarnation.
Let's say we come down here because we weren't a very forgiving person. If we have a check, if God gives us this checklist, okay, so what you need to do is you need to be more loving to people, quit and start forgiving, don't lose your temper. Then
Stop being an ass.
Then we come down here. It's not sincere.
right.
We know, oh, these are the things I got to do to get back to paradise.
sure.
So you could fake it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get
You
it.
could just come down here and go, okay, so I'm going to be good to everybody.
Yeah.
But it's not coming from your heart. If you don't have a memory of what you're to work on, if I naturally learn to love you, I naturally learn to forgive you, then I've learned something. But if I was told that's what you need to do, and
Right.
therefore I act upon it, but not with sincerity, my goal is to get back.
Yeah, I want to be. Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's
That's interesting.
kind of what I think. Maybe the only thing I can kind of come up with is, like I said, the prerequisite to what's going on is,
Right.
and who knows, like I said, maybe we are teachers once we get up there. Maybe we help souls. Maybe we counsel souls before they come down. Maybe, who knows?
Right. Yeah. 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 Oh my
If you
God.
if you listen to the episode with what happened to Lance, and this is his wife telling his story because he died for good a while after writing all of his experiences down and talking about them. But he had these extended NDEs, and he talks about being with his guide, which was his cousin who had passed away a few years earlier, and that these people, I love the term guardian angels. I think it
Yes,
says a lot.
I do
But these
too.
people would whisper in somebody's ear down here, something that they needed to hear and do. And so I don't think a guardian angel is always someone just guarding you from harm, but maybe whispering things in our ear that will help
Right.
us along the path, the journey that we're on
Mm.
here.
That's
And
fascinating.
after all, that's exactly what I want to do when I'm gone. I would
Yeah.
love to be able to help my grandchildren, if I
Yes.
have great grandchildren someday, I would love to be the one that's up there trying to help them, lead them, wouldn't you? I mean, we want to
Yeah.
do that for our loved ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find it so, there's so many, and please don't take this wrong, Christians out there, but there's so many closed-minded Christians. It's like, because I always say, if I pass away, I want to come and visit my grandkids. I want to visit my great grandkids and my generations, and to see what they look like and what they're doing and the happy times in their lives. But when I grew up as a Baptist, and they were telling me, oh, no, 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 God cut you off from that. You're completely cut off from earth, and you're in the heavenly realm. You won't be able to come back and see that. And I thought, as a kid, I'm like, oh, that's horrible.
Oh, I don't get to see my kids.
I want to see my
kids,
children, and
yeah.
exactly
Let me
like
see my kids.
like Eric said. Even because I was thinking the other day, when I'm 80, Dylan's going to be 40, and I could pass away by then, and I want to help Dylan, my son, through his trial and tribulations while I'm here. But how wonderful would it be if we could help him on the other side? I could influence him somehow.
How often do we hear, in these NDE experiences and other, like even paranormal experiences, where you do hear a voice, something telling you, right?
Yeah.
And you don't know quite what it is. And we talk about it all the time. Like a lot of times life gets in the way. So that's what's interesting about Lance's experience, where they're just going down and whispering, guiding almost, right?
Yeah, I think
Bumpers.
because I'm a musician and I love music, and I've had times when I've thought about something, or I'm thinking about a problem, and a song will pop into my head. And now when it does, I start listening to those lyrics very, very
Right.
closely,
Message.
I'm thinking, what a better way for a spirit to communicate with me is through music, right?
Yes.
So I've had that happen a couple times where
Yeah.
the lyrics went along with what I'm saying. Now, whether that could have been a subconscious thing that my brain said, "Oh, this is a song," maybe, or it's an angel going, "Hey, dumbass, I'm trying to listen to these lyrics."
Don't buy that pool robot.
Because haven't you ever had that happen when you're on when you're something will pop, our song comes in your head? I mean, for me, it does a lot.
Yeah. I get that.
And it could be just because I'm a music lover, but I've had that where it was actually the lyrics went along with the problem I was having at the time.
Right.
And so it makes sense, because that's the other thing I was thinking, as trying to guide human spirits as a spirit on the other side. How do we do that? You know what I mean?
Right.
They can't see us, but there's got to be some way that we can, like maybe through a dream, maybe through a song, maybe to try to get to them however we can.
Well, so have you had anybody that's had an NDE and then has gotten spiritual and maybe gone to a medium and tried to reconnect?
Yeah. There's been some of that, and some have been happy with it. Some have been very disappointed with it.
Interesting.
Had somebody tell me, in fact, not long ago, that they were in I don't know what church this was, but at their church they had a medium come to it to do a
Interesting.
reading for people, and the person sitting in front of him, the medium came up and started talking to her about her father. God has told me your father wants you to know this and this and this and this, and kept going and going. And the lady is just shaking her head. My father's sitting right there.
That's
Okay.
crazy.
Now that doesn't mean all mediums are phonies or anything like that,
For sure.
but I've heard stories on both sides there. So
Yeah, and you got to be so careful
yeah.
looking to a medium for an answer or a psychic. I mean, there are, we've had a couple of them on the show that were very, very good, but for some,
Insanely good.
yeah, I don't think it's where you need to go to get your answers. I think
I'll say
possibly
I think we've had a couple bad ones.
we have.
I
Yeah,
mean,
we have.
you know, like, and that's okay. But it kind of, I was just curious if they're able to, if anybody's been able to tap into that, because that would be fascinating.
Yeah. So Eric, do you think what do you think about meditation, trying to connect with the higher beings, like to get an answer? Maybe you're going through something, and do you believe in meditation as a communication form, possibly?
I think meditation, prayer, pondering, whatever term we want to put on it, I think is fantastic.
Yeah, I do too. I totally
Okay.
believe in
Now,
that.
our podcast really doesn't go down that road. Like I was telling Garrett the other day, we are hyper focused on the NDEs, what people saw, felt, smelled, everything, that experience and what they got from it. And so that's really our focus. Your show, you're lucky. You can talk about everything. And I guess we could too, but I'm trying to keep it super, super hyper focused.
Right. And I think that's important because it doesn't murk the water up a little bit, you know. When you and it's good that you're showing positive type of NDEs, I think, because I think that's comforting too. Because like I said, with the guy talking about the hellish ones, although some of those hellish ones, like we talked about, turn into you know, at the end, the light did appear. They did go to be with God,
Right.
and I think eventually we always, you know, like our thing about when you die, I believe, Eric, and I mean, of course I don't know, but I think even after we pass away, I think we have that decision: do we go to that light or do we stay here? When I did some ghost hunting back in the day, and I used I'd used some equipment, and I used this thing called a spirit box, which runs through
Jesus.
a radio 200 milliseconds. So if you get a whole
Mhm.
sentence out of it, it's definitely not a DJ, and you're not picking up. And I would help us. One spirit I communicated with was they didn't know, they were afraid of the light because they hadn't lived a great life, and they were afraid that might be hell and damnation if they go. So they did not want to cross over. It's very sad because I had the most phrase that I heard using that spirit box was "help us, help us." And I hope to God that you know, that God won't leave us in that little, what would you call it, purgatory or something, until you finally go the light. But what I got from about 3 spirits I communicated with, they said they didn't know what was on that other side, and they hadn't lived a great life, and it could have been. I don't know if that's hell. I don't know if that's heaven, and I'm not willing to take that chance. So what Garrett and I believe is the things we hear going bump in the night, the hauntings, the ghosts, are just spirits that are
Earthbound.
somewhat lost, who haven't made that decision to go ahead and be with God yet.
That's why you got to listen to Round Trip Death, though.
Yeah, I know, but
Because when you
Yeah.
die, you'll be
but
like,
isn't it interesting though that a lot of NDEs and you hear about where first they're in darkness for a little bit, and it's like there's a little bit of delay time before an angel comes or something. That's interesting to me.
yeah.
Because it's eventually, I think you always will have a light there.
Right.
But
The time in between is interesting to you, or
the
scary
time
to
in
you?
between it's a little scary, but I mean, but it always seems like something resolves positively through it. But
Right.
but perhaps, I don't know. And then I always worry about, well, what if the light goes, I'm tired, I'm going out.
Wait, come back.
I'm stuck, wait, but you hear those stories
Yeah,
where
for sure.
people die and immediately there's been some that immediately they see a light or an angel comes to them immediately. And then I've read stories where they were in this dark place for a little while before someone or spirit showed up to help them out. So how terrifying would that be to be in total darkness?
Oh, for sure.
For even 60 seconds would seem like eternity.
Yeah.
And if you're looking down, seeing your body, and you're looking around and it's dark and there's nothing there for you to go.
That's scary.
Well, I know, but I'm saying that I've heard stories both ways where immediately and then you hear the other ones where immediately they're just shot up.
Well, and that's what's important. That's what kind of got me on the NDE path, though, is when I found out that there was actually like legit research and data that you could follow up on. And that's one of the first things I told you. I was like, and I even said to Eric about the 5%. Like that's hugely important to me because I think that you would find common themes and threads. And that's why I was so curious about that, Eric. And that's why I have the question about geography is what is this? Because the more data, the more people you talk to, the more the picture becomes clear of what's happening. Right.
Yeah.
And we find these trends and stuff. That's what I love about his podcast, honestly.
Eric, have you heard of the university he's talking about that they're doing a whole thing on NDEs? They're concentrating just on that and the research. I think it would be, I've been trying to get Garrett to contact him to try to get somebody on because I think it'd be so fascinating to find out what their research, what they've came up with. How many years have they been? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, you ought to get them on. The one that I'm most familiar with is IANDS. Are you familiar with that group?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
International Association for Near-Death Studies.
Yes.
In fact, they're having a conference, and this is not a paid message or anything, but they're having
for sure.
A conference in Salt Lake City the end of August, and I'm going to be at that.
Lucky.
And I'm going to be at that. I just, there's so much to learn, and these guys, they have, their website has lots of NDE stories, but they also have ongoing scientific research happening all the time. And they publish, it's peer-reviewed published studies.
Hey.
And that's I'm sorry, he says IND.
IANDS.org is their website.
Okay, I was not familiar
with
you're familiar with
that
one?
Hey, and that's going to be your wheelhouse, Eric, in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, that's not far from me, so I'll definitely, it's easy for me to get there. You guys ought to come too. I know it's a little further away.
Hey, I'd love to. I do know that they have conferences. That is interesting. That's great that you're going to get to go to one. Can we catch back up? I know you're busy, but can I hit you up hit me up whenever you get back?
Yeah, we can talk about the conference after it's over, or like I said, when I get a whole bunch more interviews like this under my belt, I'll have more answers for you.
Oh man, I really like honestly, I tell Keith this all the time. I kind of got away from like listening to podcasts. I'm like kind of selfish. I only listen to us. I'm just kidding.
I don't. I never listen to any of our.
I've just been super busy. No, and like
I hate seeing myself.
Got these freaking earbuds, and I don't know how to use them, so I just stopped listening. So this has been really the first one I've listened to in a while. I listened to it twice almost. So I really, and I told you last night, I commend your effort and your work because we know how hard it is to produce a show like that. And to be strictly with NDEs is
Are you doing this by yourself, Eric? Or do you have a team?
No, my son, who's a college student right now, is doing it with me and helps out with a lot of the editing. He's doing all the social media. This is a concept that we came up with together. We've worked on for a few months before we finally launched it back in June.
Did he give you the approval to go on this show? Did you have to run it by your son?
He's the one that sent me your message the other day.
Good. Yay. Okay, good.
And he was like, "Do you want to do this?" I said, I don't know. Sounds scary to go live with somebody.
No, not on this show.
You guys are brave to do this all the time.
Yeah. Believe me, there's sometimes I'd like to tell Garrett, let's just record these.
No.
But there is Garrett's busy, I'm busy. And it's like, there's as you know, editing takes forever. Even when we did like an hour, we were doing 2 hour, 3 hour interviews.
Yeah.
And I was the one that was having to edit all this stuff and shorten it up, take out this and take out that. I got so good at waveforms of the that I got so good at that waveform. I knew it was an I would just like started learning to delete it, you know.
Well,
But
that's what happens when you've been abducted by an alien. You get to learn those kind of cool
Whoa.
things.
I don't think I was ever
Eric's
abducted.
an, oh man.
Yeah.
So tip for the day, every single doesn't have to come out.
All right.
No,
good,
no,
good, yeah.
no, I did leave some in.
Except for when I say them and then they do, because then,
No.
then I don't sound as foolish.
No, I didn't take out every but I took out when there were sometimes there was about 5 in a row. Like I said, even taking out 250 there was still probably another 20 that I left in, 20, 30 or
That is
something
so
like that.
many.
But I feel for anybody who's a guest on something, you're nervous. I mean, when I did practice runs before me and Garrett started this with my podcaster machine, and I found myself, and
You had a radio voice?
yeah, just with
DJ voice.
just with my regular voice.
Okay.
I was basically reading kind of a script for one of our shows.
Yeah.
But I tried to get away from that because I wanted it to be more natural sounding.
Right.
And when I did that, the ands and the
Just
started.
kept
And
packing on.
yeah, so the going live, which I like going live just because we can interact with the audience. The other thing is there's no editing. We really don't sit there and hum. I mean, we've been really lucky. We haven't had a whole lot of down air.
Hey, you know what my favorite
dead
thing?
air.
Here's my favorite thing about it too. I think that kind of, and we always talk about this with our guests. And I told Eric, we always have really good guests, right? And
We've been very
the
fortunate.
thing about
Until
this,
today.
no, is that
Oh, no, you've been awesome.
I've
dude.
been such a fan of Round Trip Death over the last few days.
Yeah.
That now I get to meet Eric and what he's all about, and so it takes on a whole new meaning too. So thank you for like being brave. And
We
coming on
appreciate
here,
it.
though, like, and seriously talking about your experience so far in the journey.
So when should we hit you up again, Eric? 6 months, a year? What do you think?
Anytime. I mean,
Okay.
just call and say hi. And
Okay.
and
Eric
if
will be
there's
up
more to
next week,
talk
everybody.
about, let's do another show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd really love to have you on after the conference. I'd love to see what that was all about. And that's going to be fast.
Yeah.
God, I wish we could go.
No, we got it. We got it.
I know. We got to figure out how to get to one.
We're
of
friends with
conferences.
Eric now, so we're good.
Yeah.
That
Yeah. We
I'll
want to
take you out to the best restaurants in Salt Lake, and there's no
Nice.
snow, so I can't take you skiing right now. But come on out; it'd be fun to meet up in person.
That would be
Absolutely.
awesome. What's your temperature right now out there?
We've had the hottest summer we have ever had here.
Okay.
We had a record of 107 about a week ago.
Wow, that's hot for you guys.
But right now in Salt Lake City, it's averaging about 100 every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now they say, hey, it's a dry heat, and that really does make a difference. It's not as hot as in the humid places,
Right,
like where you
for
guys are. And then where I live is up in a mountain valley near Park City. And so it's a little bit cooler up here, and it really cools down every night. We get down into the low 50s every night.
Oh, that's
It's wonderful.
Yeah, I was telling because my wife and I was like, when we get really old, I would be perfectly happy like in Montana, Wyoming. I mean, places where it's not blazing hot during the summer.
Yeah, for sure.
But this has just been a weird summer for I think most of the states. They're just having lots of heat right now.
Right.
Well, Eric, we want to thank you so much, man, for being on. I appreciate it. Thank you for taking some time out and talking with Garrett and I. And this has been very fascinating.
Now I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight because I'm going to be thinking all night.
Well, that's the way it goes. That's the way it goes with these shows.
Thank you, Eric.
But thanks so
Anytime,
much,
guys.
Eric.
Happy to do it.
All right. Well, Eric, you have a great night, and we will talk to you soon. We will
Good.
talk to you soon. All right. Take care, buddy. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Round Trip Death Podcast.
Yeah, what a cool name. That's a cool name for a podcast, too.
Man, I like the grueling process that they go through for their interviews.
Yeah, you've always brought that up, and you've always had a good point, and we just never seem to can work it out. Like the pre-interview.
Yeah, but ours is perfect though.
And I think I think it depends on who you're having.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and our platform is so open, like he said. Like, I don't know if he necessarily knew we were gonna bring up aliens and stuff, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But that's like what we do. That's what we talk about. Like, that's the fact that people do see other planets is super interesting.
Yeah.
He said it.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
A lot.
That
he was like, I'm kind of shocked.
The guy. I think his name was John. It was the one I was listening to yesterday. I was at Starbucks getting coffee, I don't know why I just said that, but anyway, but we were talking about this, the galaxies, the
Yes.
planets, the star systems.
How
To
relative
me, space is just very fascinating
Me
because
too.
like he was saying that the
Milky Way.
right, but not that, but saying that there was actually other people on other
Yeah.
planets.
Yeah.
Are they like
Parallel universes.
are they like us? Are they, because that's when
Well, that's
that's
what I
when the
asked him.
alien thing kind of
That's what I
popped
asked him
in.
though. I said, "What do they look like?" And he
And
said,
that's when he said, "Oh, the alien thing gonna
but
pop."
at the same time, we talk a lot about NDEs, and we're also, I think the cool thing about our show is that we're also into true crime, so we know how to investigate, right? And so, and if I was investigating like these theories, is I think that some people would be reluctant to go past that line. If you're already talking about other planets, that's one thing. But
Yeah,
the moment you start saying, well, and then there's other beings,
yeah,
that crosses a whole other line. So I wouldn't
right.
be surprised if a lot of NDEs, and I'm not calling anybody liars, I'm just saying, I would be reluctant. Like if I had an NDE and came back and saw other planets, I'd be like, dude, I saw other worlds. What do people look like? Well, they look like people. I wouldn't be like, they were huge, dude. Their eyes were like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That would be difficult bridge to cross. So
it would be.
but awesome show, man.
Yeah, since we've been on this NDE, we kind of been on an NDE kick the last month and a half.
That's cool.
But I still want to find somebody, and like I would like that. I think it was John. I think that was his name. If we can get his information, if we can get the information about John and maybe have him on.
Yeah.
Because I want to know someone who's crossed over, saw things.
Yes.
Where and I'm not downing any of the guests we've had on in the past, but something really descriptive, some message, because they are out there.
Right.
And
Sure.
it's just contacting them and getting them on the show.
Well, I think the one fascinating thing about every NDE guest though that we've had, like the people that have had NDEs, is that their experience is like when they come on here, it's just an open conversation.
Yeah.
So sometimes we're having these conversations and things come up that trigger something. They're like, "Oh my God, I didn't think about that." Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it pushes the ball forward a little bit. And that's what a lot of these NDE cases seem like. Like you're just constantly trying to push the ball a little bit further and learn a little bit more. And the more people that talk about it is great. I can't wait to keep seeing the data grow on it.
Right.
Because they're collecting it.
Yeah. So I did talk to, like I said, she's a doctor. I think she's had, like, I don't know if it's possible, but 5 NDEs or something
possible.
like that. And I'd really like to, every pin that I find pins around here. You guys, look at this.
Sorry.
In fact, they're usually snapped off. My Sharpie's completely snapped off over here. Let's see.
I fidget.
Look at this, you guys.
I'm a fidgeter.
Look at this. He tears my pins up. So we'll,
man.
So next week, ND. No,
yeah.
It may be, but I want to get back to some haunting stuff.
Okay.
If we can get back to that a little bit,
absolutely,
too, because I find that very fascinating.
Well, how crazy?
Maybe get another ghost hunter on, something like that.
All of these things, man.
And you guys leave, in the comments, if there's a certain particular subject regarding the paranormal that you would like us to cover, put it in the comments.
I'll throw it up on some IG too.
Yeah,
we've been killing it on IG, man. These guests are good. We've had some good, we're going down a good rabbit hole. But hey, what's crazy is we can do a paranormal show next week, and it's going to be very similar. At some point, we're going to be like, oh, that reminded me of that episode last week.
Yeah,
that's what this show. That's what we've learned over all our episodes.
Yeah, that's the thing I like about our show, and Eric was kind of talking about it too. He specifically, they just have a certain funnel that he stays in, where we can expand out.
Right.
If we do have that freaky guest on, it's okay, because that's what we talk about, some freaky stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. We can have on whoever we want.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
dude, well done. That was a great episode.
Very good. Boom.
Well done.
All right, guys. Thank you
you
so much. We will be here next week with the week after that. We are going to take another week off. Garrett's going back to Florida again.
But hopefully we record that interview.
Yeah, I'm going to try to work that out if I can. But I don't know if that's going to work out or not, Garrett. but we'll try to make it work out. If not,
We'll figure it out.
but we'll definitely have a show next week. But the week after that, it's going to be up in the air because he's going to be out of town. But I am trying to set up. There's a gentleman that lives in Israel. He does want to come on the show, talk about reincarnation, and he, and I think NDEs as well.
Yep.
He was the one that said that after he died and he came back, he felt like he was a different person altogether, not the same person.
Right.
So he said he felt like he was almost the human form that he had here on Earth. He became another human form when he came back from his death.
Time.
So
reincarnation.
Yeah.
This
So
stuff
if
is
we can get that
fascinating.
worked out, we can do a oh God, I got to learn that all over
We
again.
got
How to
it.
record
We
it.
got forget about
Well,
it.
it's just like when your brother came here and we did that one
Yeah.
thing. I was like, it wouldn't actually record anything.
Right,
so I don't know. I'll figure it out.
We'll
I'll
get
figure
it
out.
sorted.
But anyway, guys, thank you so much. We appreciate. We love all you guys. Tara Bell, I just saw you said, "Hey guys, hello."
What's
back
up?
to you, Donnie. Thanks, Donnie B. Thanks for coming. Mel and Steve and Randy,
The two
Bubba,
Scots.
Bubba Randy,
Yep.
Scott. Always good to see you. Good to hear from you. Hope you're doing well, my friend. And we love you guys. And we will see you next week. God bless. Love you. Bye.
See.